Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is Aska Janiar Amalia and I'm from 335A07, and today I will explain what communicative test design is, its principles, key components, and how it is practically applied in language assessment. This will help understand how to create tests that truly assess communicative competence. So here we let's do the next slide. And for the next slide is what is communicative test design. Definition of communicative test design is a task design approach focusing on assessing language use in real-life communication contexts rather than isolated language knowledge, for aim to evaluate the ability to communicate effectively in authentic situations. So, communicative test design refers to approach in language testing that emphasize real-life use of language. Unlike traditional tests that focus on grammar or vocabulary alone, communicative tests assess how well learners can use language in practical, meaningful contexts. The aim is to measure communicative competence, that is, the ability to convey and interpret messages effectively. For the next slide is what is importance of communicative test design. For 1. Reflects real-world language use. 2. Motivates learners by focusing on meaningful communication. 3. Provides valid and reliable assessment of language skills. So, the importance of communicative test design lies in its alignment with actual language use. It reflects real-world communication rather than artificial knowledge. This motivates learners because it tests language for a purpose, making learning more relevant. Additionally, it leads to more valid and reliable assessments as it evaluates all relevant communicative skills, including speaking, listening, reading, and writing in integrated ways. And principles of communicative test design. Authenticity. For the authenticity, tests simulate real-life situations. For interaction, emphasize interaction and exchange of information. For the contextualization, tasks are situated in meaningful context. For the task-based, focuses on meaningful language tasks. So, several core principles guide communicative test design. Authenticity means the task simulate scenarios learners might face outside the classroom. For the interaction is central, promoting communication by exchanging ideas or information. For the contextualizations ensures that tasks are meaningful and grounded in real context. Lastly, these tests are task-based, meaning they evaluate how learners perform language tasks that carry meaning rather than just language components. And for the components of communicative test design, communicative test for the example, role plays, interviews, information gap, and then language skills integration, speaking, listening, reading, writing, and realistic materials and prompts. And last, clear assessment criteria aligned with communicative goals. A communicative task includes several key components. First, it uses communicative tasks like role plays or interviews that reflect real interaction. Second, it integrates multiple language skills instead of testing skill in isolation. Third, materials and prompts are realistic and supportive of genuine communication. And last, assessment criteria focus on effectiveness in communication, considering fluency, accuracy, appropriateness, and coherence. And for the next slide, about designing communicative tasks step by step. So, when designing a communicative task, the process involves several steps. For number one, begin by identifying communicative goals and target language functions. What language function and context you want begin by identifying the communicative goals, what language function and context you want. Next, choose or design authentic tasks that match these goals. Develop scoring rubrics that evaluate communicative competence such as effectiveness and appropriateness of response. Finally, pilot your test with sample learners and revise based on feedback to ensure it is valid and reliable. And next slide, and about advantages of communicative test design. Communicative test design offers many advantages. It provides a holistic view of a learner's language ability across multiple skills and realistic contexts. This approach encourages learners to engage more deeply with practical language use. Additionally, it strengthens the validity of language assessments because the tasks resemble true communication rather than artificial exercises. Next slide. Challenges in communicative test design. Despite its strength, communicative test design faces challenges. Creating tasks that are both authentic and manageable that can be difficult. There is often a trade-off between reliability, consistent scoring, and authenticity. Moreover, assessors need special training to evaluate communicative performance fairly and effectively, considering factors beyond grammar to include fluency and interaction. And for the example of communicative task, here is an example of communicative task. In this task, students role play a phone call to book a hotel room. They must provide personal details, ask about room availability, and confirm reservation details. The assessment focuses on their ability to use relevant language functions, speak clearly, and maintain the flow of communication naturally. And lastly, conclusion. In conclusion, communicative test design is vital for assessing real language use. It makes language assessment more relevant, motivating, and valid. However, it requires careful planning, designing authentic tasks, and reliable scoring. By following these principles, language tests can better reflect learners' communicative abilities and prepare them for actual language use. And we move to part 2. Now here is the C-test is created. We take complete short text, and starting from the second sentence, we delete the second half of every second word. Student must then restore the missing parts to make the text complete again. This method tests their knowledge of vocabulary, grammar, and reading comprehension all at once. And here's an example for the first text about education. Yes, just like this. And the second, and this is the text, the text about the second one. The text of second one is about culture. And this is the for the second text about culture, the C-test C-test about culture. Now let's move to the scoring system. Each correctly restored word gets 1 point. If the answer is almost correct, for example, a small spelling mistake but still understandable, it gets half a point. Wrong or blank answers get 0. There are about 20 gaps in each text, so the maximum total score is 40 points. And the proficiency levels can be divided like this. The proficiency levels can be divided like this: 0 to 16 points low proficiency, 17 to 18 to 28 points intermediate, 29 to 40 points high proficiency, This helps teachers easily identify which students need more support and which ones are ready for advanced study. And next slide, justification. Now, why did I choose this text and this method? I choose education and culture because these topics are common in most English courses. They don't require special knowledge, but they still contain a uh, variety of vocabulary and grammar patterns suitable for intermediate learners, so students can focus on language use rather than content difficulty. The C test is also very efficient. It measures integrated language skills, vocabulary, grammar, and comprehension all at once. It's also more reliable and objective than open-ended writing tests because the scoring is clear and consistent. Compared with with other tests, closed tests may depend too much on context, while C tests follow a fixed rule for deletion, so they are more standardized. Multiple choice tests often allow guessing, but C tests require real language production. Writing tests take a long time to score, but C tests are much quicker while still showing a real language ability. And to conclude, the C test is practical and reliable way to assess overall language proficiency. It helps teachers evaluate how well students understand and use English in context, not just memorize grammar rules or vocabulary lists. That's why the C test is one of the best options for assessing intermediate level students effectively. So that's all for my explanation and presentation. Thank you for listening. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.